Hey there, this is your host, and in this video we're going to be learning all about the cell. What is a cell? Why is it the basic unit of life? What are the parts of a cell and what do they do? And finally, how do cells work together to make tissues, organs and organ systems? Let's begin with the question. What is a cell? The answer is that a cell is the smallest unit or the basic unit of life. All living things are made of cells. Cells carry out all the processes necessary for life. Each cell is like a little factory that works independently but also cooperates with other cells to keep the organism alive. For example, muscle cells receive messages from the brain and respond by contracting, allowing movement. How small are cells? Most cells are way too small to be seen with the naked eye. In fact, it takes a microscope to see most cells. Some exceptions are large enough to be seen with the unaided eye, such as the egg of a bird or the ball-shaped cells called oocytes found in ovaries. How small are these cells? The size of an average human cell is about 7 microns long. That's 7 millionths of a meter. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around how small that is. So let me put it another way. Let's say you have a sheet of paper that's about 1 millimeter thick, right? About as thick as a piece of paper. If you cut that sheet of paper down into 1 million pieces, each piece would be 1 millimeter squared. Now take one of those pieces and cut it into 1 million more pieces. Each piece would be 1 micron squared. So yeah, cells are pretty small. Are all cells the same? No, there are many different types of cells in the body, just like there are many different types of workers in a factory. Some are similar and some are very different. There are muscle cells, nerve cells, bone cells, blood cells, and so on. Despite their differences, however, all cells have several things in common. All cells are enclosed by a plasma membrane, which acts as a barrier between the cell and its environment. Inside the plasma membrane is a jelly-like substance called cytoplasm, which contains many different kinds of molecules. And within the cytoplasm is a structure called the nucleus, which contains a cell's genetic material, DNA. The nucleus acts like the brain of the cell, directing all of the cell's activities. Let's go into a bit more detail about these structures. First, the plasma membrane. As I mentioned earlier, the plasma membrane is a thin barrier that encloses a cell. It is selectively permeable, which means that it allows some substances to pass through while keeping others out. This is important for maintaining the cell's internal environment, which needs to be kept separate from the external environment. The plasma membrane is also involved in cell signaling, which is how the cell communicates with its environment. The plasma membrane has many different types of receptors that bind to specific molecules, triggering a response inside the cell. For example, when a cell is exposed to a hormone, it may bind to the hormone on the plasma membrane, triggering a response inside the cell. Now let's talk about the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is a gel-like substance that fills the cell. It is mostly water, but also contains many different kinds of molecules, including proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and nucleic acids. The cytoplasm is home to many of the cell's metabolic processes, which are the chemical reactions that occur in the cell. For example, many proteins are synthesized in the cytoplasm, which are the building blocks of cells and perform a wide variety of functions. The cytoplasm also contains many different kinds of organelles, which are structures that perform specific functions within the cell. I'll talk more about organelles in just a moment. Next, let's discuss the nucleus. The nucleus is the control center of the cell, containing the cell's genetic material, DNA. DNA is organized into structures called chromosomes, which carry the genetic information from one generation of cells to the next. The nucleus is responsible for regulating gene expression, which is the process by which information in DNA is used to synthesize proteins. Gene expression is tightly regulated, ensuring that the right proteins are produced in the right amounts. The nucleus also plays a role in cell signaling, receiving signals from the cell and responding accordingly. For example, the nucleus may trigger the cell to divide in response to a signal from the cell. Finally, let's talk about organelles. Organelles are specialized structures within the cell that perform specific functions. I already mentioned the nucleus, which is one type of organelle. Other examples include mitochondria, which are responsible for generating energy in the cell, and chloroplasts, which are found in plant cells and are responsible for photosynthesis. There are many other types of organelles, each with their own unique structure and function. Now that we know more about the parts of a cell, let's talk about how they work together to form tissues, organs, and organ systems. Cells that are similar in structure and function are often grouped together to form tissues. For example, muscle tissue is made up of muscle cells that contract to allow movement. Epithelial tissue is made up of cells that form a protective barrier between the body and the external environment. Connective tissue is made up of cells that support and connect other tissues. Different types of tissues work together to form organs. For example, the heart is an organ that is made up of muscle tissue, nervous tissue, connective tissue, and epithelial tissue. The heart pumps blood throughout the body, delivering oxygen and nutrients to the body's cells. Organs work together to form organ systems. For example, the circulatory system is made up of the heart, blood vessels, and blood. The circulatory system transports oxygen, nutrients, and hormones to the body's cells. The human body is made up of many different types of cells that work together to keep us alive. Cells are the basic unit of life, and understanding how they work is essential to understanding how the human body works. I hope you learned a lot in this video. If so, please remember to subscribe and comment below with any questions you have. Thanks for watching. See you next time.